Okay, hello Maralyn.
Hello Sharon.
Yes, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you always.
Great. So today I'd like to talk to you about your ancestry.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know that you actually have Indigenous roots.
Mm-hmm.
So would you mind sharing some of that part of your story with us, please?
Mm-hmm. I'm a little vague on it because it's something new that I'm just discovering. Terminology has changed and our verbiage has changed in the last 40, 50 years. But I can recall as a little girl my dad saying to me, we get our high cheekbones and our long noses from our Indian heritage. And he would say, and that makes us good hunters and good fishermen. And he would say, we don't get lost easily. And when I think of it, I have a good sense of direction.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband is Blackfoot, and I say to him, you know, you've got to be one of the poorest Indians out there because you get lost going in circles. You know, you're not very good as an Indigenous person when it comes to direction. And so I like to tease him. And it was just recently that I found out I was actually, it would be my great-grandmother, was Algonquin Cree.
Mm.
And from the Quebec, the Ottawa area.
Yeah.
Along the Ottawa River. And I'm off to Scotland next week, and I'm off to discover some of my heritage there. And this is really how it all started. It started with, it would be my great-grandfather, who was born in Aberdeen, Scotland in 1804. Yeah. And I don't know what year he emigrated to Canada. I really don't know. But it was here that he met this, and the few pictures I've seen, she was beautiful, and she had black hair and dark eyes and beautiful olive skin. And her name was Misty Goose.
Misty Goose. And
I just discovered that, and I just saw it on a family genogram. Oh, I was checking it out last week, and it said, you know, Samuel Frost and his date of birth and married, and Misty Goose, and it just said Native Indian under her name, and Hudson's Bay Records.
Wow.
So it came right from the Hudson's Bay Archives.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting, and then of course he had my grandfather, they had my grandfather, and then my father, and then me. So I guess I'd be fourth generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when and we smudged earlier, and it's that smell. I think it gets in your blood memory. I think there's certain things that you smell or you taste, and you go, oh, there's recall there. There's something. Mm-hmm. Just like the bagpipes. When I hear the bagpipes, I'm called to it, and I go, what is that? And I didn't know that we had Scottish heritage. I honestly didn't know. Mm-hmm. I was always led to believe that we were British, English, with a last name like Frost. You would think so, but to read in the actual records that here was, you know, my great-grandfather born in Aberdeen, Scotland. That's not England, that's Scotland.
Yeah.
So that's why maybe the interest. But and there's a part of me that is very strong Indigenous and very strong. And I don't look it. I'm so, you know, pale face and white but I went and I made my own drum. I took a workshop to make my drum. Mm-hmm. And I picked the hide. We had to pick our hides, and I picked this horse hide.
Yeah.
And I really should get it and show it to you, because when you hold it up to the light, and here's the beauty of it, is that you can actually see the outline of a horse. Mm-hmm. And it was shocking to both, you know, the elder that taught it and myself. I said, look at this hide. How would that be? And then on the outside of my drum, you can see the outline of a feather. Wow. And I go, how did that be that I said I wanted horse's hide?
Yeah.
And this was a hide that was, you know, prepared for me to use in my drum. And here you can see this outline. It is very obvious. It's not imaginary. You don't have to look at it. It's not like looking at ink spots and going, what do you see there? It's obvious that this is a horse and this is a feather. Mm-hmm. And I love to beat the drum, and I
Yeah.
And I think, where does that come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in your memory. So as we become more aware, of the history of the Indigenous people and of the settlers coming over here, of course, that's two sides of me. There's two stories in me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us Canadians, there are two stories in us. And I think it's because of those two stories that we can find peace. I think that's where reconciliation is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can understand, what it would have been to the settlers coming over here and what their dreams would have been. And, we're going to start new. And the hard work that they had to go through, to cut the land. And my grandmother, when she first came out to Saskatchewan, she lasted one winter. And my grandfather came out, and there was 4 brothers that came out to farm new land in Saskatchewan from little town Quebec along the Ottawa River. And my grandfather built her for the winter a soddy. And in the spring, she more or less said, well, that was fun. I think I'm going back home, This isn't for me. She was going back to civilization. You think civilization, that was outhouses, and that was, one-room places. That was civilization. So I respect that side of my ancestry. And then, through Truth and Reconciliation commissions and all of that, you hear the other side, and you go, oh, such sadness, such unfortunate events, and such damage done and such harm. So I think there's a lot of us that have two stories. And so when I would go and listen to the commission and some of the circles, I would cry at the stories. Cry. And I would think, how does this happen? But I look at today, we're still doing it, not only to the Indigenous here in Canada, in Alberta, and our area, in the Edmonton area, but all over the world we're still doing it. Yeah. We're always trying to be stronger and more powerful and to take over and to say, wow, aren't we great? So, my ancestors speak to me, I think.
Very good. So, how does it feel to be Indigenous in our Western culture right now? Do you feel like you're Indigenous? Do you ever, from time to time, just have a sense that you're kind of, I don't know, different somehow, or that you recognize your own indigeneity in the midst of, settler population?
I think when I did the blanket exercise, it brought it home. Yeah. Because I got angry. I did. I got so mad. I would have, put on war paint. I wouldn't have lasted long, in those times, because I would have said, there's no way I'm going down. I'm fighting. Yeah. I'm going to go down. You're going to shoot me. I'm going to be dead. Yeah. And because they kept taking away. There was not even any talk. There was no let's, come to agreement. Let's, get along. Let's live side by side. Let's teach each other. What can we teach you? Yeah. And what can you teach us? And there wasn't that. And I just kept feeling like I was losing my identity. And then I was being shoved around. And then they brought disease on me. And I could feel my blood boiling. And I kept wanting to say, fight, fight. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, when I think of the Holocaust, I go there too. And I think, fight. Don't go into that chamber. Fight. Yeah. And so I don't know whether that's my Indigenous spirit, and maybe Right. I would have gone down fighting, but I do get angry. Yeah, I do. And I think, am I too far removed? Am I too white to be even respected as having Indigenous blood and understanding? Yeah. So I sometimes feel maybe I don't want to come across as a phony, as not being Indigenous enough.
Oh, yes, right,
You know,
right,
do I
right.
need to have, I have green eyes.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I'm fair, and I
Yeah.
was born blonde. I was
Yeah.
actually born bald, you know. And I'm not a hairy person. I mean, you know, but that could be
Yeah.
the Indigenous
Well, lots
side.
of Mohawks are blonde and blue-eyed.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
that's fairly common
you know,
knowledge.
and-
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like sometimes I think we don't get a voice.
Yeah.
That often Métis don't get a voice.
Right.
And my husband, who would be, you know, second generation, that's close.
Mm-hmm.
That's close.
Yeah.
He doesn't want a voice. So I sometimes get upset with
Okay.
him and
Yeah.
say, speak up,
Yeah.
speak up. He doesn't want a voice.
Is your husband visibly Indigenous or not really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So, did you know that you had Indigenous ancestry when you married him?
Myself, did I know?
Yeah.
Well, yes, only through the stories of my dad. He would say,
Right.
you know,
Oh, yes, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We're Indian, and that's why.
Right, right.
You know, we have the high cheekbones.
Oh, yes, right,
we
right.
have our noses. That was...
Right. So, do you think that because you unconsciously, well, both consciously and unconsciously are Indigenous, that's why maybe you were attracted to your husband, one Indigenous person to another, or or not really? Have you ever thought about it?
He was very handsome.
Okay, well, that's
I
helpful.
know that, you know, and I think Indigenous men are handsome.
Yes. Yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
are. You
Yeah.
know, there isn't one that passes me that I don't say, oh, that's a handsome looking man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think as a race,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
handsome.
So, what about being Indigenous in front of Creator in terms of your spirituality? Can you give some comments about that?
I think that's probably why I'm sitting in this environment. That's probably why I you know, do launch your church.
Mm.
It's why I like to camp and to smell. And today, I mean, we got to be out there and I was supposed to be golfing, but I never really focus on golf. I'm always, you know, we picked berries, and
Mm-hmm.
we knows where the berries are, and I
Yeah.
take in the smells, and I look for the ducks and
Yes.
all of that. So
Yeah.
it's a way to stay in touch. So
Yeah. Stay connected to the land, kind of. Yeah.
big part,
Yeah.
big part.
Yeah. So you said earlier that when you experienced the blanket exercise that you were angry and you
Yeah.
wanted to fight.
Yeah.
How can Indigenous people fight in a good way in this day and age?
I think by becoming educated.
Yeah.
I really believe in education. I always have. I think also by maybe meeting people like me that are fourth generation and fifth generation, third generation, who have a great respect for you know, the heritage and understand maybe why they would be angry, why they would be upset, why they would feel, you know,
Yeah.
lost or picked on or discriminated against.
Yeah.
I think it's to find some middle of the road, because if we don't, we're not going to have healing,
Right.
and the TRC is not going to be effective, and I want it to be effective.
Yeah.
I think that our future is in healing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot have, you know, I learn every time I'm around Indigenous people. I love
Yeah.
to be around Indigenous people. I
Yeah.
love their wholesomeness. I love their the women are softer than us Anglos who are, you know,
Oh, yeah.
very outgoing, very gregarious, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're soft, they're gentle.
Mm-hmm.
I think the settlers need to learn some gentleness, maybe.
Yes. Right. Right. Thank you. So, what would you say to maybe younger or not so young Indigenous people, mixed blood people who are just coming into the knowledge of being Indigenous? Maybe they were raised mainstream or raised urban, and now they know, oh, you know, my uncle or auntie or relatives or whoever, grandparents, you know, were Indigenous. What would you say to them?
I'd say acknowledge it, celebrate
Yep.
it, be proud of it,
Yeah.
But don't get lost in the anger of it.
Very good.
And, you know, just to stay in anger, and I teach this because I, you know, do a lot of work with people lost in addiction and all of that, and not to stay there.
Yeah, yeah.
To live in anger is to get lost.
Yeah. Right.
And it's a bottomless pit. It'll suck you dry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like I was angry in the blanket exercise, but I didn't stay there.
Right.
But I'm aware that I experienced that emotion.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. So just for the little video, would you give us your full name and maybe where you were born?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My full name is Maralyn, Maralyn, Benay, Benay.
Yeah.
I was a Frost, Frost, and I was born in Barrie, Ontario.
Yeah. Very good.
I will go home to be buried. I will be buried in Quebec.
In Quebec.
Yeah,
Wow.
I will go back home.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a
you're
blessing to us, Maralyn. God bless you.
God bless you always.
Thank you.